We're going to call the meeting to order now. Today is Wednesday, May 27th. The time is 5:07, and you're at the City of Opa-locka CRA board meeting. Thank everyone for coming. Thank God that everyone is safe. Thank God that everyone is safe and we live to see another day and to do some productive work within our community. It's such a blessing. So we're gonna have a roll call, please.
Okay, Board Member Bass.
Here.
Board Member Burke. Board Member Davis.
Here.
Board Member Paget. Board Member Titus. Vice Chair Kelly.
Present.
Chair Russell.
I'm present.
Attendance confirmed.
We're gonna ask Vice Chair Kelly if you would give us a word of prayer.
Our Father and our God, we thank you for this day. We thank you, God, for how you continue to watch over us, keep us, and guide us. We ask, oh God, that you would watch us now, even through these trying times. Continue, God, to give us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Do those things which are pleasing in your sight. In Jesus' name we do pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Now, Madam Attorney, the floor is yours.
Pledge allegiance.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, go ahead. We can pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Attorney, you have the floor.
Pursuant to Executive Order No. DeSantis on March 20th, 2020, municipalities may conduct meetings of their governing boards without having a quorum of its members present physically or at any specific location, and utilizing communications media technology such as telephonic or video conferencing, as provided by Section 120.54(5)(b)(2) of the Florida statutes. The members of the City Commission Redevelopment Agency appearing remotely for this meeting are Board Member Davis, Board Member Bass, Vice Chair Kelly, Chairwoman and Russell. An opportunity was given to the public to email the city clerk prior to the Community Redevelopment Agency meeting. The city clerk will state for the record whether there have been any questions, comments, concerns, or items you will hear on this evening's meeting agenda. This meeting is being streamed live at https://www.youtube.com/user/City of Opa-locka.
Madam Clerk, were there any comments or concerns that were sent into the board that we need to make known?
Madam Chair, at the moment, I have not had any comments from the public or emails or phone calls.
Okay. Are there any add-ons for this meeting? Madam Clerk?
No, ma'am, no add-ons.
Okay, we're gonna move to approve the minutes for the February 26th, 2020 meeting.
Move it, Madam Chair.
Moved by Vice Chair Kelly.
Second.
Second by Board Member Bass. Are there any corrections? If not, roll call.
Okay, Board Member Bass.
Yes.
Okay. Board Member Davis. Board Member Davis. Okay. Vice Chair Kelly.
Yes.
Chair Russell.
Yes, I think Board Member Davis tried to say something, but seemed like his
Mhm.
His speaker was not working.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
I just are we doing roll call, Madam Clerk?
We're doing the approval of the February 26, 2020 minutes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. And last vote, Chair Russell.
Yes.
Okay, minutes approved.
Okay, the next set of minutes is the April the 22nd, 2020 CRA meeting minutes,
Move it.
moved by Vice Chair Kelly,
Second.
second by Board Member Davis. Any corrections? I have one, Madam Clerk.
Yes,
On
ma'am.
on page 3, where it says Chairwoman Russell did not participate in the voting process of this item due to being affiliated with Opa-locka CDC, that needs
Okay.
to be changed to say that there may be a possibility of conflict.
Maybe
Not being-
possibility.
Yes, of conflict. It not due to being affiliated with Opa-locka CDC, unless that's the wording that the attorney thinks is appropriate.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Attorney?
Ma'am, the way that you stated it would be fine. I think that was the wording that you used during the meeting. You think you may have a possibility of a conflict.
Okay, all right. With those changes, if any other changes, corrections? If not, Madam Clerk, roll call.
Board Member Bass,
Yes.
Board Member Davis,
Yes.
okay, Vice Chair Kelly,
Yes.
Chair Russell,
Yes.
minutes approved.
Now we're gonna open for public comments. I guess we have to say that because it's on the agenda, although we've already asked about it, Madam Attorney.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Public comments are open. Hearing none, public comments are closed. We're going to move into the resolutions. Madam Attorney, if you would move forward, please.
Resolution H1A, a resolution of the City of Opa-locka Community Redevelopment Agency authorizing the creation of a downtown master plan and authorizing the selection of Stantec Inc. to perform the requested services pursuant to RFQ number 2020-0210-0200 and providing for an effective date.
Did everyone hear? I need someone to move it, please.
Move the item.
Item moved by Vice Chair Kelly.
It does not open anything.
I didn't hear who it was second by.
Second. Board Member
Second
Davis.
by Board Member Davis. I think Board Member Burke has joined us. I thought I saw he joined the meeting. Okay,
I'm here.
okay. Let the record reflect that Board Member Burke has joined us.
Okay.
Everyone heard the resolution. It was moved in second. We have any questions?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
if I could, to the director, exactly, it may be in here, but I didn't get a chance to actually look. How many folks do we have actually apply for the, for this? For the master, I mean, how many bids or proposals do we get in?
Director Gay, did you hear the question?
I did. Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to have Mr. Delane, who was responsible for this particular project, to respond to that question. Mr. Delane.
Yes, so we had about 6 applicants for this project. 6 of them are qualified. due to the qualifications. And we had a selection process soon after. And I also included the memo which pretty much walked through the entire selection process.
Madam Chair, I cannot hear nothing you're saying.
Yeah, I couldn't understand you, sir. If you would, maybe,
He's
you
saying
need to
something
move a
about
little
his bandwidth
closer.
is low.
Yeah,
Can
closer
you
to
hear
the
me
mic.
now?
I can hear you, but it was muffled.
Is it still muffled now?
I can hear you better. What about you, Vice Chair Kelly?
Yes, go
Vice
ahead.
Chair.
Okay, as I was saying, we have six applicants. They all pretty much checked out through the primary criteria that was listed out in the RFQ document. And we had a selection process to pretty much go through the whole vetting process. And that entire process was listed out in the memo that's included in the CRA packet that was given out to everyone.
Did everyone hear what he said? I see Commissioner Bass is shaking her head.
Only the beginning parts. After that, his voice just dropped and it all went away.
I'll see if I can find some headphones.
In the interim, let me just kind of fill in. There were 6 applicants that provided information, made their submissions. We went through the entire vetting process. We did have a review committee review through the documentation to make sure that they met the minimum requirements as was set forth within the RFQ. And that information was provided to the city clerk and to all the members of the board, as well as to access to the public through the submission that we provided via the website.
Okay, Vice Chair Kelly, did you get your question answered?
Yes, the only other, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the answer. The only other question I have, the time frame or the fee charge range again. Exactly what was it, or is it?
The amount allocated for this particular project is $130,000 up to that amount. We were looking to have this particular project completed within a 6 to 9 month period. That's pending upon the setup of different meetings and different deadlines, but that is pretty much the time period that we were looking to move this project forward.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. And again, I don't know if IT can do something, but everybody, the volume seems to be low when they're talking.
Okay, because I think I'm yelling. So I had to close my door so I don't hear myself twice.
Oh, okay. Any other questions concerning the downtown master plan? I have no other board members have any questions? Okay. I have one to the director. I saw on some of the applicants, they had ranges. They had $1. They didn't give like one bid total. They had a range. How would you have gauged that range? What does the range mean?
Through the chair, as some of the applicants provided a budget per se, that was not something that was required as a part of the RFQ process, but it basically gave us some insight as to how they would look at approaching the project. And if there was to be some particular benchmarks as to within a budget, we would know whether they would be able to accomplish that within the allocated amount that we had in place.
Okay.
And if I just may add, we did not look at it from a standpoint where that would either hinder their scoring as the evaluation committee looked at that. It didn't really set any type of precedence or preference.
Okay, because that was my concern was it based solely, was dollar amount, something that was scored? But you're saying that that wasn't a score, that wasn't a part of the score. So they just gave you, based on what you put in the RFP, their $130,000 would cover whatever you wanted within those scope of services.
Correct.
Okay, that's my question. Anyone else have any other questions? Okay. Madam Attorney, at the last meeting, we were given agency to vote on. In this ordinance, in this resolution, are we voting on that particular company, or are we giving suggestions of a company that we want to get?
Staff has done a process. They procured the services that they requested. They put it out for bid. You have responses. This is the company that staff is recommending that you approve. And so this is for the company that is mentioned in the resolution.
I didn't hear the end of that, Madam Attorney.
This is to approve the company that is listed in the resolution. I think it's Stantec. This is to approve that company. Staff has done a procurement process. They've evaluated the applicants, and this is the company that staff is recommending to you all. So this is only for that company. This is a resolution to approve that company.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir. Board Member Burke.
Is this the same company as the last time before?
Yes, it is. Because we had already advertised this particular company as being the recommended company, we had to re-advertise it as the same submission without any changes.
I thought, Madam Chair?
Go ahead, Board Member Burke.
I thought the last time we said we wanted 2 or 3 to make a choice. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think those were the instructions that we gave the last meeting, that 2 or 3 be brought back before the board. I might, if I'm not mistaken, I could be mistaken.
Mr. Director, you have an answer, a response?
Yes, through the chair. As I understood what the information, we were instructed to basically provide you with all of the submissions that were received, not to come back with more than one recommendation. Our recommendation was based on an evaluation of a committee that was able to look at all of the applications and make that determination. So our recommendation will stand as it is. What you as the CRA board had an opportunity to do is to look at the information that we evaluated. And if you saw fit that you wanted to consider another particular company as a part of that evaluation, I think you would be in a position to do so. But yet and still, we've done our evaluation, and we would not want to change that evaluation from any perspective. Now, as within the documentation that we provided you, there was a scoring sheet, there was a recommendation of the top company, along with the second company and the third company. So if you would like to look at it from that perspective, you could look at either the company that came in second place, which was Place Dynamics, or the company that came in third place, which was EL Waters and Company. You can look at it from that standpoint as those being the top 3 companies to be considered as a part of the selection process, if you were to look at it from the standpoint of choosing the top 3. But as far as our recommendation from staff and based on our evaluation, the number 1 company is the Stantec company, and that will continue to remain as our recommendation.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
was the same panel you used the last time, is that the same panel who's recommending this company again?
We did not do a reevaluation of the companies. We stand from the same information that we presented before. So we only did 1 evaluation.
So, Madam Chair, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
So there was nothing done. Y'all just furnished the information to us. And then since this was the people that y'all picked last time, this is the people, nothing else was done. This is the people y'all going with from the last time.
Through the chair, Board Member Burke, this is the same information. Our recommendation remains the same. What we did not have a chance to provide you prior to the previous meeting was the background information and all the submittals. So we provide that information to you, and we provided also the evaluation. Therefore, you could see all of the information that we made our recommendation from.
You finished, Board Member Burke?
I'm not comfortable with this, but yes, I'm finished.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir. Board Member Davis?
if I may, real quick, I just want to point out something. The item, like Director Gay, as he just explained, like the item has already been procured. I think if we had any problems with the procurement and that process, then we probably should have brought it up, at the last meeting, and it should have been taken care of, because community development is just going with their recommendation. As a board, we have the ability to always, go with the recommendation or make another decision. So, I mean, if any of my colleagues have a problem with it, just don't support the recommendation. The process has been already procured. We already have been presented that. So, I mean, we either accept it or we don't. But I hear the concerns of my colleagues, so I thought I just should point that out.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm reviewing this item, and I'm glad.
That's Board Member Paget?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Let the record reflect that you're now part of the meeting. Please, Madam Clerk.
Okay, for the record, Board Member Paget has joined the CRA meeting.
All right. Are y'all able to see me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we see you waiting. Welcome from your last meeting.
Thank you. Yeah, I had to change shirts. I'm reviewing the submittals, and I do want to thank staff for providing some backup documentation during this time so that we can actually see what the options are. I do share the concerns of my colleagues, but I'm looking at the backup documentation, and it's here. And I think Stantec does look pretty good for the fit that we need here in the city of Opa-locka. So thank you for providing that backup information and bringing this to our attention.
Anyone else? Well, for me, Mr. Director, I see the backup documentation as well. I have the same concerns that Board Member Burke has, because I was reading back through the minutes to see this discussion, because we had a lengthy discussion on this item. And I thought that we were bringing it back as well, not only just to see the other companies, but if we wanted to choose another company as well. I read through these 500 and something pages y'all gave us here. And the company that you chose does seem like it fits the criteria, but I would just like to say that the discussion, some of the discussion should have been in the minutes, because then Board Member Burke would have his question answered as to whether or not we said you all were bringing them back for us to make a choice, or whatever the situation was, because it was discussed in our last meeting thoroughly. So some of those minutes should have been in this, some of those comments should have been in the minutes, but we're here now. So as the other board members say, the company does look to be, and based on your recommendation, one that you choose, we either vote it up or we vote it down. No more comments? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Board Member Bass,
Yes.
Board Member Burke,
No.
Board Member Davis,
Yes.
Board Member Paget,
Yes.
okay, Vice Chair Kelly,
Yes.
Chair Russell.
Yes.
Item passed.
Chairperson Russell.
Yes, sir.
I'm almost inclined to believe that those were not the directions we gave at the last meeting. And someone needs to look at the directions we gave from the last meeting. And but I'm almost correct that those were not the directions that we gave from the last meeting. But since it's gone, let it be so. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Burke. And as I stated before, that we did have a lengthy conversation on it, and some of those minutes should have been included in this packet that we have. Should have been included, but let's move on to the next resolution. Madam Attorney, please. Madam Attorney?
Yes, one moment. Let me go back to the document.
Okay.
The resolution of the City of Opa-locka Community Redevelopment Agency approving the Opa-locka Community Redevelopment Agency Annual Report for 2019, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for severability clause, providing for a conflict and repeal clause, providing for an effective date.
Waiting on someone to move the item.
Move it.
Moved by, was that Board Member Burke?
Yes, ma'am.
Second.
Second by Board Member Davis. Discussion? Now, the board members, do you have any questions? I have
I had a question.
okay, go ahead, Board Member Davis.
Does this include the audited financials? I know that was a point of concern of the past, whether to include the audited financials or what have you. I know that we you know, just completed one of our most recent audits. So would that information be included?
Through the chair.
Someone can speak to that. Thank you.
Okay, through the chair.
Yes, sir.
Some of that information was provided within this annual report. This is a report that is required for us to submit to Miami-Dade County every year. The first 6 or 7 pages is basically identical information that was already previously provided to you. We also included within it the makeup of the organizational chart of the CRA. Also, we included our annual budget that was submitted as a part of this for last year. And one additional item that we did add, as you all are aware, we are in the process of doing a reconciliation between the CRA and the city of Opa-locka. Attached within this document, and we've had a numerous amount of work that has gone between our department, the finance department, and the budget administrator to basically begin to resolve a lot of the issues as it relates to where our finances are within the CRA. There is a memorandum, which basically is a memorandum to the county relating to the CRA's finances and how they are being addressed. And we did include the budget information for 2020, 2019, 2018, and 2017 as a part of the auditing information that needed to be submitted. These budgets actually are catching us up from the previous submissions of our annual report, because we did not include that within our previous report submitted to the county, but we are including it within this particular submission. So in essence, we are including some of the audited information. As you know, the audit is still an ongoing matter, and we are just about complete as to all of the audits that are required as it relates to the CRA. So we are probably about 75% complete as it relates to the audit information being submitted, and that information is included within this document.
Thank you, through the chair. Thank you, Mr. Gay. That's great news. Glad to see that we're you know, we're on track and we're in progress of reconciling our finances between the CRA and the city. So that's all good news. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, anyone have any other questions concerning the report? Okay, if no other questions, Madam Clerk, roll call.
Board Member Bass,
Yes.
Board Member Burke,
Yes.
Board Member Davis,
Yes.
Board Member Paget,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kelly,
Yes.
Chair Russell,
Yes.
item passed.
Next resolution, please.
A resolution of the City of Opa-locka Community Redevelopment Agency approving a budget amendment to increase the OCRA staff salary percentage split from a 10% to a 30% contribution and not exceed 20% of the TIF trust allocation, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for a severability clause, providing for a conflict and repeal clause, providing for an effective date.
Move it.
Moved by Vice Chair Kelly,
Second for discussion.
second by Board Member Burke for discussion. Discussion is open.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
as this in essence, that the staff is asking for a raise at this time? I'm asking it, Is that what this is? The staff is asking for a raise at this time?
Okay, I'm gonna let the director answer the question.
Okay, through the chair.
Yes, sir.
Board Member Burke, this is not considered to be a raise for the staff. What we are facing is, as a part of this pandemic, there are some administrative things that are beginning to take place as relates to the overall city budget. And each department was asked to respond as to what changes could be made as it relates to their particular aspect of the city's budget. Since I'm actually responsible for two areas with the planning and community development along with the CRA, one of the things that I have noted over the past year and a half is that we are doing a significant amount more work relating to CRA activities. Even though we're still doing the same amount of work as it relates to planning and community development, we're doing more work on the CRA side. And as in response to a request from the city manager to look at reductions within our workforce, one of the things that I did recommend is that we would have an adjustment, whereas the CRA would be in a position to contribute more funds as it relates to the planning and community development / CRA staff's budget as it relates to their salaries. So this is not can be considered a raise or an increase, but actually an adjustment as it relates to the allocation of funds being contributed from the CRA to the budget as it relates to the planning and community development aspect. So in essence, there will be a change in the percentage rate. Right now, it is a 10% from the CRA with 90% coming from the general fund of the city. We get the same amount of dollars as far as our salaries and as far as our hourly wages is concerned, but instead of it being a 10% allocation, it would be a 30% allocation from the CRA and a 70% allocation from the general fund. Taking consideration that we've had a significant increase within our TIF allocation over the past 3-4 years, we actually have within our CRA trust account over $800,000. We are allowed through the operation of the CRA and the interlocal agreement between the CRA and Miami-Dade County to use 20% of the TIF allocation for administrative costs. Looking at it from that particular perspective, we could actually increase the allocation amount from the CRA within that 20% allocation. And based on the numbers that I projected here, we're only increasing the contribution from the CRA in the amount of about $60,000 to $65,000. So it's a $60,000 to $65,000 increase. And I think as it stands right now, that's approximately $23,000, $24,000. That's part of the 10%. So we're just increasing that from that $24,000 to approximately $85,000, $90,000 to cover the portion of work that the planning and community development staff is doing as it serves the function of the CRA staff. That is the purpose of this. And it's basically to make sure that our department can cover all of the responsibilities that they're covering for the city as well as for the CRA.
Madam Mr. Gay, thank you so much for explaining it to me. I didn't see it that way. You have explained it and you've explained it well. And I thank you.
You're welcome.
You,
Madam Chair.
Yes, Board Member Bass.
To Mr. Gay, if I understood you correctly, you're saying that this will bring a 20% savings into the city's general funds?
No, I would not necessarily look at it as a savings to the general fund. As we understand it, as we go through this pandemic with COVID-19, it is anticipated that there's going to be some revenue decrease for the city overall. So each department was asked to make whatever necessary adjustments would be as far as their budget. Since we are anticipating a revenue shortfall, our resolution, or one of the resolutions that we are proposing as a part of this, is to basically make a budgetary adjustment between the CRA and the city.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam Chair?
Anyone else?
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Board Member Paget?
Quick question. When is the change in the city's funding expected to affect your department, Mr. Gay?
That's a really good question, because we really haven't had a particular timeline set to this as to when this particular adjustment will take place. That's a question that we probably need to put forth with the city manager. We're anticipating that based on the shortfall, it will be sometime between now and the first of the next fiscal year.
I asked that question because I think we may have some time to really figure this part out. Now that we are, as a CRA, generating annual dollars that are bringing in funding, which also may actually take a hit too due to COVID-19. So there will be, but currently right now we are bringing in a steady stream of income, which should give us the ability to have a full-fledged CRA person or CRA staff. And I would like to at least know what that looks like, because this funding has the opportunity to transform the CRA area. And I'm still haven't got a grasp upon what that will look like. So I would love to see that projection of, okay, this is how much funding we are anticipating. These are the projects we want to complete. And these are the steps we need to do to get to that point before we start making more and more financial decisions. So that's what I've been asking for that for quite a while. Like, hey, give us this CRA board an idea of what's the plan moving forward. And I do understand we do have a CRA plan in play. Where's the input from this new commission about this new board on what that looks like moving forward? And what are those dollars and how they're going to be allocated? So that's what I would like to see before making a decision like this, because this is a extra almost, is it $50,000 that we are expending? Is it for the year, for end of this fiscal year, but next year, if this continues, we're talking about 20%. Well, what percentage of the CRA budget is currently going to staff and is anticipated going to staff moving forward?
Through the chair, the amount that's actually allocated at 10% is approximately $24,000. We basically are anticipating increasing, we're tripling that particular amount, and it will probably be approximately $75,000 to $80,000 in the following years, until there's such a decision where we decide that the CRA staff and the planning and community development staff should be bifurcated, and actually the CRA would take on their own staff. That is something that we probably will be looking at doing probably within the next 3 to 5 years, or maybe sooner, depending on how the city and the CRA is doing financially.
And that's what I would like to see. This is what I'm just hearing this. I would like to see that laid out before making this decision. So I would ask that this be deferred until we get that. But as it stands right now, I'm not comfortable making that decision until I can see that picture of how our funding will be used over the course of the next few years, and what projects we plan on taking on, and the staffing that we're going to need in order to make sure that those projects are properly managed.
Madam Chair,
That's it, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair. Madam Chair.
Our mic is muted on.
I'm
Madam
sorry,
Chair.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry, I had my mic muted.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
thank you. I'm not going to be supportive of this item for a couple of reasons. Number one, I know there's discussion about funding and departments have been asked to make adjustments. And while I appreciate the fact that community development does more than one thing, to me, this is an opportunity they can kind of cover and help in that process. And I don't know what all the numbers are going to look like. And we've not even had a real discussion from the commission level yet either. So I think this item is, to my opinion, too early for us to be discussing. Considering where we are, if it proves out that the adjustments are warranted, I think there's still plenty of time. In my opinion, this is not pressing, so I wouldn't be supportive of it at all. Thank you.
Anyone else? I didn't hear from Board Member Davis, I think.
Yeah, so I fully understand, you know, the reason why community development is asking for the allocation. You know, I mean, we pretty much do that across the board with all our departments. We charge 10% overhead and allocate the time that each department is spending within each other area. So I understand the you know, the reasoning behind it. But I'm also like Board Member Pygott, you know, because I want to see what it looks like as far as, you know, what will full-time staff look like as opposed to the, you know, the part-time allocation from our community development department. So you know, I just wait on community development to, I guess, you know, come back. But I'm just like Board Member Pygott, you know, I want to see what that looks like before we move forward. I like to have both options on the table so that we can make the best, you know, financial decision on behalf of the city.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Madam Chair, I think
That's Board Member Burke, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
I think the way Director Gay explained it was that part of the city's general fund would not be going to cover part of their salary, this to beef up the general fund. Now, I was wondering if we could revisit this, like the mayor say, once we take a look at it, because if this to help beef up the general fund and to keep them furloughing or laying people off, I can see. Maybe we can come back and revisit this at another time.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, sir.
To Commissioner Burke's question, and it is a very good question, please bear in mind that as a CRA board, you are limited as to where those funds can be utilized. 18% of the city is within the CRA area. So that you by looking at spreading these dollars out to other departments, those other departments will have to be responded only to activities within the CRA district itself. So you have to be very careful if you're going to be doing something through code enforcement, that code enforcement officer will be limited to doing things only in the CRA and no other areas. So we would have to be very cautious as to how we proceed with that.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Gay. I see what you're saying now. Okay, yes, okay. I'm in agreement with my colleagues. Maybe we can revisit this once we get a better look at or a better picture of it. Thank you.
Vice Chair Kelly, did you go?
Yes, I already spoke.
Okay. Mr. Gay, I'm not going to support this item either. And reason being is that I think that you all should have given us a little bit more information. I understand that the city has a shortfall, but we want to make sure that if we're going to take the money from the CRA to help in that area, I don't know whether help is the right word to use, because whatever your percentage that the CRA pays has to be that percentage of work that is going into the CRA. And then there's also a cap onto what that can be. And I think that cap is 20%.
Correct.
Okay, 20%. So what you're saying is that we're just getting our first project, and we're having someone else that's going to be overseeing that project. So I don't see, and maybe you could show it to me better. I would have liked to seen it before now, because then I could come here in support of what you're doing. That you show us where your job is going to increase more than 10%. Your job responsibility is going to increase to the 20%. And so when we're talking about taking money from the CRA to take care of shortfalls within the city, we have to be very careful in that wording, because it has to totally be CRA related. And because the city is furloughing their employees. My question to you, Mr. Gay, would this alleviate your department from getting any furloughs?
Being that our staff is definitely contributing more than 10% that's being allocated right now. We've gone, if you look at it from that standpoint, the city is actually paying additional salary work or additional expenses as it relates to our salary for the CRA. So the city's in essence compensating the CRA. And that's part of the overall evaluation that we've been looking at as part of the reconciliation as well.
Okay.
As it also looks at it from the standpoint of whether it would forego us being subject to the possible the furloughs or layoffs and things of that nature. If we were to have to go down that particular route, we would definitely lose staffing, or some staffing would have to go on a part-time basis. So our ability to be able to respond to CRA activities and CRA responsibilities is going to diminish greatly. So it's definitely going to have an impact on our workload and our ability to sustain the workload that we have now. We're already doing more work on both sides of the fence, on the CRA side as well as on the city side, as far as the amount of workload that my staff has.
Okay, well, I understand, and I feel I'm going to say I feel what you're saying. It's just that I want us to be very careful how we are going to approach this with the CRA funds. When we say that we are going to be looking out for the shortfall within the city. Because if there's going to be a shortfall in the city, it's really not, the CRA can't take on that. But I'm going to take into an account that you're telling us that you already do more than the 10% that you all are being paid for the CRA.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm going to take that into an account. But right now, I would prefer you to, as my colleagues have said, for you to defer the item, bring us back a spreadsheet, and let us see what direction the city is going in, the city manager, and where he's going to go and where those numbers fall within the city. I think that would help us better make a decision. Maybe we might not agree on the whole 20%. Maybe we might meet you halfway, but we need to have something else to look at. And a breakdown as to how much now and where exactly is going, what percentage of your salary and the other staff salary that the CRA is paying. And also, your workload. Give us a workload sheet.
Okay,
Okay.
I will provide that information. And
Thank you. And believe me that I'm not unsympathetic to the needs of the city. I'm not unsympathetic to what you and the staff do. I know that you all do a great job. So it has nothing to do with whether we're questioning whether you all do a great job. That's not the issue. Okay.
Okay, very well.
Okay, so you want to
So
pull the item?
I will defer the item at that time.
Thank you, sir. Madam Attorney, how do we proceed?
He's indicated that he has pulled the item. If someone wanted to make a motion to defer it, in addition to that, to another time, you can also do that. But staff has indicated that he has pulled the item voluntarily.
Okay, tell me what's the difference between deferring it and pulling it?
Deferring it would follow if somebody made a motion to defer the item to some period in time, 3 months or whatever the case may be. And that goes. But in the past, one of the things that has happened is I've watched you all just, if staff pulls an item, they say they pull it, then you don't take the item up. But if you wanted to specifically follow the Roberts rules, then the proper way would be for a commissioner to state a deferral and then state when, or if you defer it indefinitely, that would be, an option as well.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I move to defer, that we would defer the item. I mean, he pulled it, so you could leave it at that, but just to follow the attorney's suggestion, I move that we defer the item to the next meeting with the understanding that the director will have all the information that has been requested as a part of the package.
I'll second that.
The motion has, it has been motioned and second. Madam Clerk, can we have roll call, please?
Okay, Board Member Bass,
Yes.
Board Member Burke. Board Member Burke,
Yes.
Board Member Davis,
Yes.
Board Member Paget,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kelly,
Yes.
Chair Russell.
Yes,
Okay, item deferred.
thank you. Is that's the last?
No, ma'am, you do have one final item.
Okay, go ahead.
A resolution of the City of Opa-locka Community Redevelopment Agency approving a foreclosure assistance program in the City of Opa-locka Community Redevelopment Agency area through a partnership with the Opa-locka Community Development Corporation to manage and operate the foreclosure assistance pursuant to certain terms and conditions set forth in Exhibit A and Exhibit B, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for severability clause, providing for a conflict and repeal clause, providing for an effective date.
I'll move for discussion because I want to ask some questions. I'll move for discussion, Madam Chair.
Moved by Vice Chair Kelly for discussion. Second, do I get a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Burke.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
to the director, number one, why is this on the, where did this come about? Let me ask that question first. What brought this to a resolution?
Through the chair, board members, since we have been in this pandemic, there has been several inquiries as to how the CRA could possibly assist through their programming for providing assistance to property owners and businesses. And one of the items, if you look on the second page after this particular item cover sheet, one thing that we were able to do is to basically break down the CRA redevelopment plan and pull out those particular items that we identified as potential projects for the CRA. On that page, if you see the Opa-locka Community Redevelopment Agency, the CRA plan potential projects, there are several projects that were outlined within the CRA redevelopment plan, and we basically, and they were done actually by neighborhoods. So we outlined that particular process and we provide that information. Under the Magnolia North section, one of the things that was discussed, or one of the things that was suggested as a potential project, is to have a partnership with the CDC on home buyer education and financial assistance program. We basically looked at that project as an opportunity to see if there may be some potentials out there to look at assisting those property owners that are within the CRA area if they were having some difficulties and maybe facing foreclosure, which is a part of how to educate our home buyers and letting them know that, you know, purchasing a home is one of your greatest investments, but at the same time, there are some things that you may have to take in consideration, and foreclosure is one of them as a part of the home buyer education process. We have had some conversations with Opa-locka CDC, who you may know already has a home buyers education program. They have been approached as well as to how they can assist some of the property owners within the CRA and outside of the CRA as to how they can assist them through the foreclosure process and hopefully prevent them from going into foreclosure. So we've had some conversations with them to see if there's an opportunity for the CRA to assist as a part of the home buyers education process to give some assistance as it relates to prevention of foreclosure. Within the packet that we provided you, there is a document that basically is the Federal Housing and Urban Development Home Counselors Program, as it was provided by Opa-locka Community Development Corporation. And through this document, it gives you pretty much all of the information as it relates to buying a home and what situations you may come into if you were to go into a foreclosure situation, and how to potentially respond to that. We were looking at this as an opportunity to joint venture with Opa-locka CDC to see where there's an opportunity to assist those particular homeowners within the CRA area, taking in consideration that because of the limitations of the CRA area, we will only be able to probably have an impact on approximately 350 homes, because that's the number of homes that are actually within the CRA area. You have probably close to over 55 properties that are within the CRA. A considerable amount of them are multifamily, and some of them are mixed use. They may not necessarily fall into the same categories as for a single family or a duplex home, but we did go in and look at the numbers to see where there was an opportunity. And within this particular portion of the city, we could have a potential effect on those properties, up to 350 properties that are within that area. We did not dive any deeper to basically find out if there were any potential property owners that may be having financial difficulties and may be facing foreclosure within the area. We have not had an opportunity to do that type of research as of yet. But this is basically us presenting this to you as another potential project for the CRA to look into providing assistance for property owners, homeowners, as well as potential home buyers as it relates to prevention of foreclosure within the CRA district. So that is basically the essence of what we are looking at doing. And we wanted to present that to you. This was something that was proffered as a suggestion by members of the commission. So we did go in and begin to do some research to see if there is an opportunity to do that. So we present that to you as an opportunity.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One of the things I'm gonna do when I leave office is write a book on language and jargon and language and words, because conversations and whatever, I have no idea why this would be on the agenda given where we are and what we're facing. I like the way it's worded, pandemic thrown in there because we're dealing with a virus. We just indicated, and you just indicated, that your workload is very heavy. You're doing more with the CRA now than you've ever been done. So why would we want to take on a foreclosure assistance program when the number one, as you indicated, the CDC already does this? There is nothing that I've seen that we have such an amount of folks being foreclosed on that we need to entertain something like this or spend resources or energy on it at this moment. They have a program in the CDC they've been doing for a while now, which I guess is very successful. I applaud them for it, but it's nothing that I think the city needs to be partnering with at this point. If we're going to look at this, and it's one of the markings that we have as a part of what we can do or a initiative, that's fine. If that's the case, we should have went out for RFP, RFQ, or whatever, get information, get qualification to see what the market would bear, what's out there. That would have been a proper thing to do. But to just come in and say we're going to establish this partnership or pursue a partnership with the CDC, I think is totally not the way to go. We know that Opa-locka is tremendously rental and not ownership. And as you indicated, you talk about 300 homes, and with all of the things you have doing to enter into something that you got to on a foreclosure program at this moment, to me doesn't make any sense, given that you haven't even done enough investigation, to use your term, or look into what that would really mean in terms of how many homes or what have you. I think it's totally unnecessary at this point. I think we already have a partnership with the CDC. They're going to be doing a facade program already, correct?
That's correct.
I don't want to get into where it seems like we're one-sided. Nothing against them, but put it out. We're really interested in doing this. Bring it before us to put out and see who comes back in. If they turn out to be the best one for something and the board really wants to entertain that at that point, based on your numbers and based on information you acquired that sees this such need, then that's something to me the board can look at. But at this point, we shouldn't even have this, in my opinion, on the agenda. And as you mentioned, a couple of folks on the commission, you said wanted it done or asked about it, then they should have proffered that from the commission and not the CRA. But that's just my thoughts. I'll listen to my colleagues, but I don't even see the need. Thank you,
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, sir. Board Member Davis.
Thank you for that, Madam Chair. So just to bring some clarity around the issue, I was actually the board member. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I think Commissioner.
I see
Yes, I can hear you.
Kelly. Okay, yeah. So I was the original board member that put out the request. And what I asked was community development to look at our CRA plan. So as you know, I find a necessity outlines what type of projects the CRA is able to take on and the like. As a part of those projects, I wanted to look at, I guess, opportunities as it relates to looking at options for our residents. So as you guys know, we have the facade improvement program, which I wasn't necessarily in favor of because of its limitations through the CRA. And that's something we decided as a board to do on behalf of our businesses. This is in my opinion, this is an opportunity to not only do something for our residents, but to get ahead of a curve, that we know is ultimately down the pipeline. We all saw what happened in 2008 and, the foreclosure crisis and, balloon payments and the subprime mortgages and the like. And we know that the effect that it had on our residents. In 2008, the CDC stepped in with, the help of HUD and federal funding to help stabilize those properties. In my opinion, this situation, you know, we're faced with a similar scenario. You know, our residents are, you know, not just our residents across the country, all faced with balloon payments and you know, looking at ways to modify their loan and their mortgages. So, you know, to me, this in essence gets ahead of a lot of those issues. Of course, it'll be limited to the CRA and its boundaries. But in my opinion, the CRA should do something for our residents. We have one of the highest millage rates in Florida, you know, and you know, and yes, I was the commissioner. I made the inquiry to community development, and I asked for the item to be presented to the board for discussion, because I didn't want to arbitrarily make the decision. Now, as far as the nonprofit entity, I mean, there's plenty of organizations that do home buyer education. You know, the CDC, you have South Florida, housing services of South Florida. There's plenty HUD certified housing counseling agencies. So if you guys wish to procure the item, you know, that's not a problem that's not a problem that I foresee. My opinion, you know, the CDC, like as a part of home buyer education, you know, we have to go a step further than just educating our residents and putting them in homes. You know, you have to go through, you know, once you purchase a home, it's just not about purchasing it. You got to stay in the home. So that's where the foreclosure prevention and you know, reverse mortgages was an issue that kind of took us out in 2008. So just getting ahead of a lot of those issues and a lot of the scams that's been going on. And to my knowledge, this program doesn't have a financial implication as of yet. So this resolution, what it does is it starts the conversation of what a partnership or what a program would look like. And in my opinion, this community has been divided for too long, in my opinion, from an organizational standpoint. We all serve one community. So we could partner with an entity inside the city or outside the city. I'll be in support or in favor of it. But as far as where the inquiry came from, I proposed it. You know, it was in reference to getting ahead of, you know, the financial crisis that's ahead. You know, I wanted to do something for our residents, and I wanted to be brought before this board for discussion. So here it is.
Madam Chair.
Board Member Davis, you finished?
Yes.
Okay, I think I heard Board Member Paget.
Yes, ma'am. To the executive director, what's the financial impact of this? Like, how much are we allocating to this program?
That, through the chair, that amount has yet to be determined. As I said, as a part of my presentation, we're still somewhat in the investigation phases of how to address some of these particular concerns. We have had some conversations with Opa-locka CDC to basically see where there may be some opportunities, and just still understanding the fact that there's only the potential of approximately 350 homes that we could potentially have an impact on is basically going to dictate what that particular allocation could be.
I'm confused because I from what I understand, I guess this goes back to why we'll want to figure out the staffing situation to make sure, because I think that when a board member proposes an idea, I know from the city side, one of the things that is required is that the manager does a fiscal impact of it, and also provides an understanding of what are the rules and regulations. So this is a program that I would love to see happen, because this is one of the things that, what is the response to COVID-19 in assisting the very real needs of our residents? And this is one of those options that we can put on the table, but it's not an option if we don't know the logistics of it and the budget of it. So it seems as though this was brought up a little prematurely without getting the necessary details. And from what I understand, the way the process works is if a board member wants something to happen, he would discuss that with the director or the manager, and the manager would, and also the attorney, and you would come together to really put it together as a proposal. What I'm seeing here is a resolution, and I guess this is the backup documentation about what Opa-locka CDC currently does, or the federal housing count. I don't even know what this attachment is and how it relates to it. But the details of how much we're going to allocate to it, what is the plan of implementation, those details aren't there for us to really give this serious attention. And I would like to see that before we do, along with the plan of how this CRA is going to be spending these TIF dollars over the course of the years and in response to COVID-19. So I think what Board Member Davis, or Vice Mayor Davis brought up is something we need to have a discussion on. But what does that look like? And then the other concern is the selection of the entity. Are we able to identify entity without an RFP? I thought there would be some type of RFP associated with that. Is that misunderstanding that? Question for the director.
Well, I think the board member Paget, the director, he would have to refer back to our bylaws. And I think according to our bylaws, unless it's some type of emergency, I think that you have to put it out for RFP. I'm not sure, but we need to look at the bylaws and see exactly what the bylaws say, and that would drive how this RFP should go out. Because, you know, before we were putting out we were giving the facade program to a specific entity, and we brought it back and said, no, we needed it to go out in an RFP. So that's a question that the bylaws would have to answer, Board Member Paget.
So, Madam Attorney, could you clarify that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Typically, you all have been following the city's procedures, and in doing so, you have been procuring those things, except for things that have to be procured by there are certain things, obviously, by statute you don't have to procure, and so for those things, in some cases you haven't. But I think I don't know if it's an established policy, but from what I can see, you all have been following the city's procurement policy. And Mr. Gay can confirm that, but that's what I've seen so far.
Which means we will have to do an RFP, correct?
This does not appear to be something that that's necessarily an exemption from Florida statutes.
Say that again. You broke out.
This does not appear to be something that is an exemption from the Florida statutes, but I can take a good look at that. It doesn't appear to be an exempted from Florida statutes, but I'll take a look at it. My understanding, when this was placed on the agenda today, it was being placed on for discussion purposes. And so that was the discussion that I had with the CRA staff.
Okay. So I would definitely like us to clarify that process, because I know all of us as board members have ideas about things we want to do. And the way we go about doing that is to speak to executive director and the attorney to figure it out, so that we can present something to our colleagues that we are able to really dive into. So I don't understand why that process wasn't implemented to really put this forward in a good light as an option of how we as a CRA can be responsive to our residents in the CRA district, during this time of COVID-19. So this is something that, again, I would love to see, but it needs to be flushed out by staff and attorney to make sure it's on point. Yeah, I'm concerned about why that didn't happen.
Let me jump in here, board members, and I spoke to the director concerning this item, and he stated to me that he was bringing it forth for discussion. I think he could speak for himself now. I think the reason why he wants us to discuss it and he brought it as a resolution was because previously it was stated to us that we discuss items beforehand and then bring them as a resolution. So I think his intent was to have us discuss it, give him some direction, and he go back. Because I was very concerned as to why it was being presented as a resolution as well. Now, I'll ask the attorney, is there another way that we can have items discussed before, so he can get some direction as to how to bring it back as a resolution rather than going this route? Because I think that's what happened with this.
Yes, ma'am. This can be put under the director's report for discussion, and that's a way that it can be brought forward for you all to consider. And then obviously it will go forward to a resolution depending on that discussion. So that would be a way to do it.
Okay, because in speaking to Mr. Gay, I gathered that he didn't have everything flushed out as he would like to have it. So that's the reason why he brought it in this manner. But Mr. Gay, you heard the attorney, so that's a very good suggestion that you give it under your director's report, then we can discuss it, and that would give you some direction for you to bring it back as a resolution. And so that you would know that the board, we like the idea of what you are bringing forth, but it's just the information that's needed and in the proper manner.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
Members of the board, this item was actually brought before you at the request of the board member, and the city manager wanted to have this item placed on the agenda, potentially as an item that could be voted on. So that's the purpose of it, having it on there as a resolution. But we were still under the impression that we needed to do some additional legwork to basically get the item shored up to the point where it could be accepted by all. So we do take in consideration all of the points that have been made thus far and all the discussion items that have been raised as relates to this. When we initially did our evaluation, we needed to make sure that, one, it was an item that can actually be accomplished within the CRA, and it had to be within the redevelopment plan. So just getting it to the point where we were able to make that interpretation, and I did consult with several other CRA boards within South Florida to see where they were as it relates to this particular item, how they were potentially addressing it, and how it was pretty much crafted within their CRA plan in order to go in those particular directions. I can honestly say that the way our CRA plan is drafted as it is, we were basically just kind of cursory touching on the subject matter of foreclosure by basically dovetailing it into the home buyers program. But all in all, our redevelopment plan needs to be updated. It needs to have a lot more concise information. And I agree with everybody that we need to be able to express specifically where certain projects and programs are being addressed within the CRA plan in order for it to be promoted and move forward. So with that being said, we do not have a problem with taking this information back and looking at it more closely and coming back forward at the appropriate time.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir. I think I heard Commissioner, Board Member Burke. Okay,
Mic is messed up.
Yeah.
something's wrong with the speaker. Okay, something's wrong with your speaker. You're
Gotta log back on, Commissioner Kelly. We can't hear you. Gotta log off and log back on.
Okay. I log off.
okay. While we wait on Vice Board Member Kelly, does anyone else have anything they would like to say concerning this matter?
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
I'll let Vice Mayor go on.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, sir.
A question to the director, Mr. Gay.
Yes, sir.
The CRA plan, the specific line item that states the partnership with the Opa-locka CDC. If an item like that is identified in our CRA plan, do those items fall under the classification of being procured?
Through the chair.
Otherwise?
Through the chair, yes, you
Yes,
can
sir.
go through a procurement process in order to secure those particular projects and programs. And like I said, because it is referenced with a community development corporation, we will have to open it up to see what other community development corporations would be interested in getting involved with a particular type of project or program within the Opa-locka area.
Okay. From your professional opinion, as far as the procurement process, would you recommend putting it out for RFP, RFQ, or like would you want to dictate the qualifications, or kind of have them submit individually, like what services they can provide along those same lines?
Through the chair, it would really be pertinent upon what aspect of the bullet point that speaks to creating this home buyer program, and what particular aspects of it that you wish to address. I would be challenged to say that most of our community development corporations or economic development corporations cover a multitude of different programs and activities. So it's in essence to say, do you want to have it very specific, or do you want to make it very broad? Also taking in consideration that you do have a local community development corporation that is within our municipal boundaries, that have had active development activity occur within our CRA, whether there would need to be consideration of preference for that particular entity or not. So we would have to evaluate it from all of those different perspectives. And in most cases, it will probably have to be viewed as depending on how the RFP or RFQ is crafted. In most cases, because you're looking to see who's best qualified, you're looking at an RFQ process. But if you're looking at it in terms of getting the biggest bang for the buck, then you would do it as an RFP. Because we really don't have a real fix on what the anticipated expenditure could be as it relates to this particular project, because there are other resources that are out there where we don't have to necessarily utilize CRA funds in order to achieve the same purpose. We would maybe need to look at, possibly an RFQ process in order to satisfy the selection process.
Okay, thank you for that. Through the chair, Mr. Gay.
Okay, Board Member Kelly's back. You had a
Yes, I'm pretty
comment.
sure my questions may have already been answered, so I apologize. I won't belabor the point. I think, as Mayor Paget mentioned, when one of us has an item and you know, staff has been around long enough to know certain things along with the attorney's office, what process they need to take, even though we may have an idea. And I think this is a prime example of that. I'm just gonna leave it at that because it should be deferred, flushed out and come back. I'll just leave it at that for the sake of time. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, board members. Anyone else concerning this item? I think the director has stated to us that he's going to go back and hash out some numbers and the concerns that we have and then bring it back again. And also take the comments that were given by the attorney on how to handle concerns like this, that we don't bring them as a resolution. If the director could bring them as part of his report, then we can discuss them, give him some direction, and then he could go back and bring it as a resolution.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir, Commissioner, Board Member Burke.
Remember this item was moved and second. Are we gonna have to undo that?
Madam Attorney?
You can, at this point, you can either vote it up or vote it down, or the item can be pulled. So you can do one or the other. If you believe that it's not right for consideration, you can consider it and vote it down. Or as you've done in past practice, you can remove the motion in second and the item can be pulled by staff.
I remove my second.
Madam Chair, if I could, and I'll remove the motion. Why would we do the same thing we just did with the other one? You're gonna defer? Everybody kind of likes the idea. We're not trying to necessarily kill it. I would just prefer to just make a motion to defer the item and let staff come back with all the information, updates, crafted in a way, hearing the concerns of the board, and just bring it back at a later date. I don't necessarily want to just kill the item. Let's establish whatever our practice. I know you keep saying best practices, past practice. Let's establish what our protocol is going to be going forward. So, Madam Chair, I would make a motion to defer the item and have the director address all the concerns that have been raised by the board members and bring it back, take into consideration the sponsor and what he's trying to accomplish, and bring it back to the board. That would be my motion to defer the item.
And if you would add to that motion, Commissioner Kelly, a time certain, whether it's, the next meeting, 30 days, whatever you think.
Madam Chair, I don't want to do that because it's not my item, and they may want to meet with the sponsor to make sure it galvanizes what his intent. So I don't really want to lock in. I'll say 30 days. That's amenable to him because it's his item. I don't know how much time he may want to revisit this because this is his item. But for the purpose of what the attorney says, I'll say 30 days. I'll move for 30 days unless the sponsor, which happens to be board member Davis, have a problem with that, then I'll make a motion to defer for 30 days.
Board Member Davis, did you hear the motion?
Yes, Madam Chair, I second that motion. And I mean, that's fine, but I would just say to the next meeting. I don't know when we're slated to meet again, but I will offer that as a suggestion, as opposed to the 30 days.
Did you hear that, Board Member Vice Chair Kelly?
I heard, I only said 30 days to make sure we had enough time. I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know if that's enough time. But if staff, and that's what he wants to push for, I have a problem with it. I just want to make sure when it comes back, all of the issues have been raised and addressed and clarified. Don't bring it back and then we still got deferred again. But if he wants to go for
30 days is fine.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Okay, we're going with the 30 days. It's been motioned and second that it's deferred for 30 days. We need to have a roll call for that, Madam Attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Board Member Bass?
Yes.
Board Member Burke?
Yes.
Board Member Davis?
Yes.
Board Member Paget?
Yes.
Vice Chair Kelly?
Yes.
Chair Russell,
Yes.
okay, item deferred.
Okay, the next item is the CRA Director's Report. And before you start with your report, we want to make note of the time is 6:42, and I think you all have a commission meeting tonight. So since we gotta have the meetings same as the commission meeting, I ain't gonna say it no more. But anyway, you got about 10 minutes. I see you, Mayor Paget. Board Member Paget. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Director.
All right, thank you very much, Madam Chair and members of the CRA Board, Gregory Gay. Contained within your packet is an administrative update report of the CRA's activities. As you all are probably aware, we have begun to move forward with items related to our facade improvement program. We've had discussions with Opa-locka Community Development Corporation as it relates to how to pair up our facade improvement program with their business assistance program. We've had about 2 or 3 meetings, virtual meetings with them to discuss those particular aspects of it and to create a specific criteria as to how and when the CRA funds can be utilized towards facade improvements. As I stated before, there's approximately 165, 170 properties that could qualify to be utilized for the facade improvements. So there will have to be an evaluation of those particular properties, as well as participation from either the business owner or the property owner. So we've been going through those particular criteria. We think we have something that's pretty much in place, and we're going to be forwarding that information to you within the next day or so that you can evaluate it. Also, as it relates to the audit findings, we have been putting together some policies and procedures as to how the CRA is going to respond and operate going forward as it relates to the Auditor General's findings. And we've been working very closely with our budget administrator to making sure that those findings are something that not only can be achieved, but something that can be sustainable as it relates to the lifespan of the CRA. I probably proffered this numerous times, and it may sound like a broken record, but our CRA redevelopment plan needs to be updated. There are items that are being mentioned, suggested, proffered on a daily basis, not just from board members or not just from staff, but even from people within the community who will want to have an opportunity to utilize CRA funds for different projects. And then once we find out that their property is not within the CRA area, that pretty much eliminates the opportunity for that particular business or for that particular property owner. So we need to basically look at those opportunities to not only expand it from the standpoint of projects and programs that we would like to institute, but also looking at expanding it from a boundary perspective. So we have to take that in consideration. The historic City Hall project, as many of you may have heard, that particular project is still at a standstill. And unfortunately, the vendor that the city was looking to working with in order to move that project forward has decided not to move forward in completing that project in the city of Opa-locka. Therefore, it is anticipated that that project will have to go back out to bid. And from that bidding process, it is anticipated that the cost for the to complete the restoration project of Historic City Hall will increase, possibly 75 to 100%. So it could be double of what the cost was initially. And as we continue to have these downpours of rains and storms, the historic City Hall continues to fall into additional disrepair. So that's something that we have to look at. It is anticipated that the allocation that was initially requested to assist in the restoration for historic City Hall will probably go up, or a request for an increase in that allocation will probably be proffered. So we would need to be well in place to be able to address that. Yes. You have a question, Madam Chair?
5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay. I'm gonna finish it in 2. The bank accounts, we included the bank account statements for the last 3 months so that you could see that we have 861,000 in the bank. And on the last page, and this is going to be good information for you, as we have gone through the CRA reconciliation process, we pretty much have been able to get a finite number as to what the expenditures that the CRA has had over the last 4 or 5 years, how much of those expenditures have been paid on behalf of the city, and at the same time, what the TIF allocation from the city should have been to the CRA. So there is a spreadsheet, which is like next to the last page within your agenda, which basically breaks out all of those particular costs, as well as what the
Page number what?
anticipated.
What's the page number?
I don't have the page number with me on this particular submission that I have, but I know that it's the next to the last page because it was the final documentation.
We've asked for page numbers.
I know we're actually working on trying to get a system where we can do page numbers for all of the
Handwrite them,
multitude of-
handwrite them.
We'll take that in consideration.
Please,
But
page numbers
nonetheless-
are important when you have 530 something pages.
I totally agree with you. And I'm pretty sure my staff is hearing that. At the end of the day, it appears, based on the evaluation of the reconciliation, that the city is going to owe the CRA approximately $240,000. So as a part of our reconciliation process, what we are looking at doing is basically having 2 resolutions to be proffered, one from the city and one from the CRA, basically for the CRA to pay for those services that the city has proffered over the years, which comes to a total of $345,000, just to round it off. And we would have a resolution from the CRA to the city to pay off that particular bill. And in return, the city would proffer a resolution to pay over to the CRA their TIF allocation in the amount of $566,000. So that, in essence, will begin to get us to the end of the reconciliation process. And that will be one of the final pieces as a part of the auditing that needs to be done in order for the CRA funds and the city accounts to be justifiably made whole. That is the essence of my report. If you have any questions or concerns, I'll address them at this time.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir. Board Member Paget.
I would just like to see this plan, updates to this plan and ideas as soon as possible. Hopefully the next meeting, so that we can spend some time really figuring out what we want to do and what those options are on the table, including the budget. As the plan, the idea that Vice Mayor proposed, those are considerations I would love us to be able to at least know And if we got this infusion of almost another $500,000 to our budget as a CRA, that is something we need to take in consideration, along with the historic city hall. So thank you for the report. I look forward to seeing more details about how we're going to move this CRA and leverage the CRA for the benefit of our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Paget. Anyone else?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
just a question, because I've heard that several times about expanding the bounds of the CRA, because you got certain businesses or whatever want to do something and they're not in the boundaries, which I understand that in a sense. Would changing the plan or revising the plan just require approval of the city, or would have to go back to the county?
Through the chair,
Yes, go ahead.
if I can respond.
Yes, sir.
Any amendments that are made to the CRA plan will have to go back to the county as well. So you have to have approval by the CRA board, approval by the city commission, and then a transmittal to the county for their consideration.
Well, okay, I kind of figured the city. The county was the one I was trying to make sure. So I have to go back to the county too.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will reserve the time. We need to finish up. Thank you.
Oh, okay. All right. Anyone else in short before we close out the meeting? Well, Mr. Director, we thank you very much for the good information that you brought to us today about reconciling the books. I know that Board Member Paget, Mayor of the City of Opa-locka, have been asking for that for quite some time. So there you have it. The plan that we have that we're working with right now, it would be a good idea if we as board members looked at that plan and see what areas that we can work on until we can get someone that comes in and that can revise the plan. But we could start off with what we have right now. And so thank you to everyone. Been a great meeting. We look forward to doing a great work in our city. To Mr. Gay and to your staff, you all are doing a great job. Don't think that we don't appreciate you all, because yes, we do. There's always room for improvement, and we want to prove to our residents that we're spending the tax dollars wisely, because that's where we're getting the money from. And we do want to show forth the CRA. I know Vice Board Member Kelly getting ready to leave us, but I'm quite sure he would like to have his hand stamped on something to say that as a CRA, because he was initially the one that started the CRA along with Commissioner Jordan. So I'm quite sure he would like to see something done before he leaves office. So again, thank you. Thank you to everyone. We look forward to our next meeting, and everybody have a great evening and a job well done.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Okay.
Don't let us go now, huh?
Oh, yes, you can go. Y'all got 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Before your next meeting. Get a cup of coffee or some tea. Oh, you're home. You can eat dinner.
Nelson.